Hello, and welcome back to Collective Sound with Isabel Pacey. This is episode 2, so if you've made it this far, I'm proud of you, and I'm in love with you, so.
Hey, let's talk.
Anyway, if you haven't listened to episode 1, go back and listen to it because you'll kind of get an idea of what this is going to be, what I'm going to talk about, but in the end, I don't even know what I'm going to talk about. So that's where we're at, and that's the level we're at with this podcast. We're really organized over here, really trying our best. So just like a little life update, I guess, still in quarantine. This is week 6, I think, which is crazy. Week 6 of being completely shut into my home with my lovely roommates in the Radish. Yeah, it's been awesome. I've been working from home, which has been great. A little stressful, but, getting to work with music, which is awesome. And then also looking for a house because our lease ends here in about a month, which is terrifying because the Nashville rent market is terrifying and I'm scared of it, and we've been ghosted by, I think, 4 landlords, which is way more painful than getting ghosted by a boy. So if you've never experienced it, I do not recommend. Anyway, off topic. So episode 2, what's episode 2 going to be? A big thing I talked about in episode 1 was my crazy fangirl days, which are really a huge part of who I am, because I was just like a little crazy, and I feel like I have to expose myself and the crazy times I had back in high school. And so I think my most iconic story, and if you know me, you have to know this story if you don't already know it, is the time I met Ed Sheeran dressed as a ketchup bottle. Yeah, so let's just, take a trip down memory lane and, let me tell you the story of this strange time of my life. So back in 2013, this is like the time of, I googled it to see what the top songs were at the time. This is the time of like Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines, Royals by Lorde, Can't Hold Us by Macklemore, we're really in that prime pop era. So I had found Ed in probably 2011, 2012 maybe. He had written a couple songs for One Direction and we're like friends with them and would pop up and whatever, so that's how he was kind of put on my radar. So then I started listening to a lot of his stuff. So this is like before A-Team had even hit the radio. So he came to Milwaukee before that, probably 2012, and I had seen him at the Pabst Theater. Super cool. It honestly was kind of just like a lot of teenage girls who were One Direction fans that found Ed, and it was incredible. Passenger opened for him. Iconic. Anyway, so a year later, I'm a freshman in high school, and he announces a show in Milwaukee again, and it was one of those like radio sponsored shows. So it was the 97.3 Spring-a-Ling, which is like so strange, but anyway, he was playing the Spring-a-Ling show. I don't even remember who the other bands were that played, but they had a couple other acts, whatever, but Ed Sheeran was like the big draw. So they announced this song right before A-Team starts playing on the radio, and it probably just started playing. And so they do pre-sale. I get tickets with my friends. We're so excited, whatever. Then his song ends up blowing up. And so they release more tickets. They sell out the Rave Eagles Ballroom, which the Rave is my favorite venue of all time. It's so dingy and so like not even nice. I don't even know why I love it so much. I think I just have so many good fond memories there. But they have it's a venue where they have like 4 different rooms in that big venue. They're all different sizes. And so I've seen like so many shows there of like so many different bits. But the Eagles Ballroom is like upstairs. It's on the top. It's the biggest. It's beautiful. It's like huge and ornate. The Rave used to be like a YMCA, like way back in the day. And they converted it into a music venue. So there's actually an abandoned pool, well, not abandoned, but there's a empty pool in the basement, which I bet you've seen a picture of like your favorite artist there. Like the 1975 did a shoot for MTV in it once. Like every band that's ever played will go in there and take a picture. Anyway, that's number one on my bucket list. So if you have a connection to the rave, let me know because I want to go in that pool so bad. Anyway, back to the point. So Eagles ballroom capacity is probably 3,000, I would think. And so it's just a GA floor. And then they also have a balcony that has like these like little like cove thing. Coves? That's not the word. These little like the things. I don't know how to describe them, but that you can also buy tickets for and stand in there. So my friends and I, we buy tickets right away. It sells out. It's like insane. Like everyone's giving away tickets. The radio stations are doing all these contests, whatever. So the show, slowly creeps up. I'm so excited with my friends. We're like, we're going to wait out. And this is like way before the days of people sleeping on the streets to wait out. So waiting out a long time is maybe 6 to 8 hours. Like that's crazy for people to wait out that long. Because remember, this is 2013. And so my friends are like, we're going to wait out, aka we're going to go right after school, whatever. So I'm a freshman in high school. I'm like doing my thing. It's September. I'm like 2 months into high school. I went to a high school where I didn't know a lot of people going into it. So, I'm just like living my life, making friends. So the girls I was going to the show with were actually from grade school and they went to different high schools. So we're like excited, whatever. The day before the show, 97.3, who was the radio station that was putting it on, announced a like t-shirt poster contest. Honestly, I do not even remember. It probably was a poster contest and I just took it way too far. I don't know. Some like contest where you could like make the best poster and whoever did got to like meet Ed Sheeran. I don't know. They'd been running contests like all week to meet him. And so actually 2 of my friends won. We were like super excited for them. The homies are going to finally meet Ed, whatever. So they announced this. So obviously me being me was like, okay, full send. Like, let's go, ladies. Let's bring it on. So my family was hosting an engagement party for one of our good friends. Hosting this engagement party, I'm in charge of kind of watching over my nephew who's like maybe 8 months old at that point. And so I find out about this. I have to like, on my like little flip phone, my friend's texting me about it. So I go upstairs to my room. I take my nephew with me, put him on my bed, and I sit on my bed and I'm like, okay, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do? So I'm like going through poster ideas, all this stuff. And then suddenly, brain blast, a little fact about Ed Sheeran, which I knew this because I was like an insane fan, is that he really likes ketchup, which now, like fast forward to 2020, he like did a collab with Heinz ketchup, which is so funny. But back in the day, he would like kind of bring it up in interviews and he had like a huge ketchup bottle tattoo on his arm. I don't know. So for some reason, I was like, Ed likes ketchup. I'm gonna wear a ketchup bottle costume because I had one from like 5th grade Halloween. So I like go through my closet and dig and find like this old costume, which used to like go down to probably my ankles. I put it on and it doesn't even pass my hips, so it's just like, it's one of those costumes you buy at like Party City. So it's just this like weird foam, like red cylinder and it just says ketchup across the front and then has this very strange hat. So I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna wear this. Like, even if I don't win this contest, like, maybe it'll, like, get his attention and he'll give me, like, a shout out. Like, hey, the girl, like, which, again, why would I want to be, like, the ketchup girl? Like, Ed Sheeran shouting out a girl in the crowd in a ketchup costume, which little did I know that would become my brand, which is a little embarrassing now, but it's hilarious, and that's why we're here. So I, like, decide to wear this ketchup costume, whatever. I look into this contest, and I'm like, okay, how could I get creative? How could I get creative? So I played hockey at the time. So I take my nephew down. I walk through this party, like all these people at my house, walk through this party, go outside to my hockey bag, grab like hockey tape, which is, that we like tape our sticks with, grab some of that, run back upstairs, like with my 8 month, whatever, baby, child, nephew. You get the point. So I run upstairs, I put him on my bed, I'm like, okay, let's go. And so I cut the tape and spell out on the chest of the ketchup costume, so it already says ketchup in black, and I cut up tape to spell out 97.3, help me catch up with Ed. Which, like, good one, I was like, 14 at the time? And so I'm like, yeah, this is so funny. This is great. And so I do that. And then on the back of it, it said like hashtag Ed's ketchup or something. No idea. So I make this, I'm like, ditch this party, whatever. Everyone's like downstairs. My mom has no idea what I'm doing. And so I finish this costume. I'm like, wow, this is my masterpiece. So call my friend, tell her about it, text her. We're like, yes, this is gonna be it. Like, this is gonna get us in. We're gonna meet Ed Sheeran. Which the confidence in my 14-year-old self, love her. Like, I want her back. Anyway, so we, I like, go join the party again. Next day I go to school and my mom was like out of town or something. I don't remember, but I'm still, I think I'm 14, 15, so I can't drive. So I go to school and my mom was either out of town or something, so she couldn't take me. The venue's downtown Milwaukee and I live like 15 minutes away from the city. For some reason, she couldn't take me. So my friends had gone down there and got in line and I was at home, like literally sitting, twiddling my thumbs for probably 2 hours until my dad got off work. So he gets off work, he picks me up, he goes to drop me off downtown. So I put this ketchup costume on, like, no shame. It's the middle of September. It's like kind of cold, so I'm wearing jeans and like a t-shirt and a sweater with this ketchup costume over. And I have no shame. I have no, like, I walk in there like I own the place. So my dad drops me off. The line had wrapped around the block of the rave twice. Twice it wrapped around. So we find my friends. We're probably, I don't know, 300 people back. Find my friends. I like open, my dad drops me off at like the corner of the block and they're probably like a block down. My dad, and I could just like see this playing out like a movie. I open the car and I'm like, thanks, Dad. And I have like my Vera Bradley backpack with me. And I like run to my friends down this block of just people lined up for Ed Sheeran. And everyone looks at me like I'm crazy. Because I am. I am dressed in a ketchup costume. Go up to my friends. We're like, oh my gosh, like whatever. So the show's probably starting in like maybe 3 hours. Right? Yeah, it's probably like 5 o'clock. So in like 3 hours. So chatting with my friends, and then another girl I knew from my school was like up towards the front of the line. So I was like, I'm gonna go say hi to her. So I go up the line and everyone's looking at me like, who the heck is this girl? What the heck is she doing? And so I go up to my friend Anne Marie and I was like, hey girl, whatever, we're talking. And she's like, this is so funny, blah, blah, blah. So I'm walking back to my friends and everyone's like, they like stop me and are like, what are you doing? And I was like, oh, well, there's this contest and like I want to win, whatever. Everyone thought it was really funny. And so I'm standing in line with my friends. We're just like chatting, doing our thing, whatever 14-year-old girls do. I don't know. So I'm standing there and people would walk past us and like ask about what I was wearing, stuff like that. And all of a sudden we're sitting there and a couple people had come up to me and asked me like what this was for. So this guy came up to me and asked me again. He was like, hey, like who are you? What are you doing? Like, why are you wearing that? So I was like, oh, and I started explaining. I'm like, yeah, like the radio station is having this contest and like Ed loves ketchup. And so I just thought this was a great idea. Like I am selling it like I'm selling a business. And I look up, I think I like was nervous. Even though I had all the confidence in the world, I was like, I think I was starting to feel kind of awkward because I was like, wow, I really stand out right now. And so I realized that the guy I'm talking to is like he's holding like a box of cupcakes and all this stuff. And I was like, that's weird. And I look down, I'm like, telling the story to his face. And I look down and he has a radio station badge on. And I was like, oh my gosh. And he's like, hey, like I'm Riggs. I work for the radio station. And I was like, hi, like I'm Isabel. So I told him about the whole thing. He was like, this is really amazing. Like, you're pretty high on my list of like, this is really like really out there. Like you're high on my list to win. And I was like, oh my gosh, really? Like, blah, blah. He was like, yeah. Like, I'm going to keep talking to some people, but like, I'm going to keep you in mind. I was like, okay, cool. So he walks down the block and all my friends are like, oh my gosh, like what the heck? Like, blah, blah, blah. We're freaking out. So we're like watching him, like trying to be sly, like watching him walk down the block, talking to other fans who have like posters and they're like giving him things and all this stuff. And, all of a sudden we see him talking, probably like 30, 40 people down from us. He's talking to these girls and then he turns towards me and points at me. And I was like pretending not to see him. He points at me and I was like, oh my gosh, guys, like he's pointing at me like, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen? And so he starts walking up the block, and there's a girl with him who also works for the radio station, and she's like on the phone, they're chatting, whatever. So he's walking, and he starts to pass me. And I kid you not, I've never felt heartbreak like that. Like my heart dropped. I was like so sad. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe like I didn't win. Like that's so sad. Also, I look ridiculous, all this stuff. And right as he's passing me, I think he also was on the phone. Right as he's passing, he looks at me and he just goes, grab a friend. And I have never let out a shriek like that in my life. And I'm so embarrassed. But here we are. So I scream and I start crying. And so he's like kind of laughing and they're like on the phone, I think, with the station inside being like, hey, we got a winner, whatever. Because there was already a bunch of winners inside, like waiting to meet him. And so I start crying. So there's like tears streaming down my face, and I had two friends with me, and I was only allowed to bring one person. And so one of them was one of my like really, 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 really good friends at the time, and the other one was like her friend that I knew like kind of well. And so the one that I didn't know very well was like, just take her, take her, take her. So I grabbed my friend, we're holding hands, and the radio station guy is like taking us to the front. And so I'm passing like 300 people crying, dressed as a ketchup costume. Everyone knows, like they know I won. And all of a sudden, if looks could kill, I would have been dead on the spot. Like people were wanted me dead. And so I'm walking down the line passing all these people, and there was this group of girls from my high school that were on the corner, and they were a year older than me, and I knew one of them. And the girl I knew, like as I passed her, she's like, oh my gosh, Isabel. And I just looked at her and I was just like bawling. She's like, I'm so excited for you. And all the other girls she was with, death glares. So they take us to the front, like through security. They're like, hey, you like have tickets, right? And we're like, yeah, yes. We're like finding our tickets. They're like, there's so much happening at once. They're like putting wristbands on me, checking tickets, checking my bag, all this stuff. And I'm just in complete shock because at the time, like Ed Sheeran was my everything. Like I loved him so much. And so they take us in the building, and right when we walk into the entrance, it's really only like the venue staff and like radio people. And all of a sudden this person from like probably 20 feet away goes, oh my gosh, you found the ketchup girl. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, we found her, like whatever. And I was like, what the heck is going on? So they take us into this room, and I knew two girls who was already meeting Ed. And so we take us into this room where they have everyone waiting, and my two friends just scream. We all just scream when we find each other. So all these other people are like chill. There's like a girl playing a guitar. Like they're all like dressed nicely to like meet Ed Sheeran, have gifts for him. And I look like a maniac, like in a ketchup costume. So we're like screaming, whatever. And then we like sit down for a minute. I like gather myself, like compose myself. And then these radio people come up to me and they're like, hey, like, you know, can we get a video of you like saying the radio station name or something? And I was like, yeah, for sure. So I like do this video for them and all this stuff. So then Riggs, the guy who picked me, comes back and he comes to our table and he's chatting with me and he's like, oh, like we're so happy we can like let you do this, like whatever. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much, like this means so much to me, whatever. I'm like so emotional. And then I slowly find out I like did not have social media at the time. I didn't have Twitter, didn't have Instagram, like I had nothing. I only had a Facebook. And so I'm like and don't have a smartphone or anything. I just like have a cute little like slide up phone or whatever. So I'm getting all these text messages from people like, I just heard about you on the radio, like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's so weird, like whatever. And so I'm just so flustered. So we're waiting in this room for maybe 5 minutes and they're like, okay, line up, like now you're gonna meet Ed. And I was like, oh my gosh. So people start to line up. There's probably maybe 20 people that is gonna meet him. So we line up. I'm like, me and my friend, we're like we're in the last like 4 people to in the line. So we walk in, sweet like Riggs, the guy from the radio station, which like shout out to Riggs. Since then he has done so much for me and I appreciate him. And so he like walked with me through the line. We were chatting and he was asking me, you know, more about how much I loved Ed, whatever. And so people like start meeting Ed. You know, it's that classic meet and greet. There's like a radio backdrop. You go up, take a picture, leave. They give you a signed poster. Like that's it. Nothing like really that crazy. And so people are meeting him and I'm just looking at him in like incomplete shock. Like I like can't believe what's happening. And so we walk up and we're like one person in front of him, and it hits me that I'm about to meet Ed Sheeran, take a picture with him while I'm wearing a ketchup costume. And so I like start to get nervous about it. So Sweet Riggs was like holding all my things while I was meeting Ed. And so for some reason I like took the hat off, which was honestly dumb because the costume doesn't make sense without the hat. I just like kind of look like an idiot. So we like walk up to Ed, and my friend Mary's with me, and we walk. Honestly, from here on out, I kind of blacked out. I don't remember much of this. The one thing, which I know a couple other people who have met Ed Sheeran since, and everyone says the same thing, is that he smells so good. He just like has a really nice cologne. But anyway, I walk up to him and like give him a hug, and he's like kind of laughing and also so confused. And he's like, "Oh, what's this?" And he like points to my ketchup costume I'm wearing. And I get so nervous that I just start talking at a million words per minute. And I was like, "Oh, well, I know you really like ketchup, and they had this contest, and like blah blah blah." And like he literally looked at me and he was like, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, there was a contest that the radio did, and like I know you really like ketchup, and so like I thought I would do this." And he like thought it was so funny. He was like laughing. He's like, "Oh, that's amazing, whatever." He introduced himself, like asked for my name, then turned to Mary, like talked with her for a little bit. We take a picture, and then I'm just so nervous I just like walk away. And so we like walk away, and we're like shoot off into this like lobby of the venue. So it's us and like all these girls who met Ed, and everyone's like, people are crying, like all this stuff. So I'm as in people are crying, I'm crying. So I'm crying. I like have my Vera Bradley backpack on. I have like a signed poster. I'm like looking at Mary, and I'm like, I can't believe this just happened. Like whatever, because I had loved him for like so many years. And so then all of a sudden my phone like keeps ringing in my backpack, and I was like, what the heck? And so I had texted my parents that like I had won, and I don't even remember looking at them responding, but I pull my phone on my backpack. My dad's calling me. So I was like, oh, my dad's calling me because he knows I won, like whatever. And so I pulled my phone and I answered the phone, and I was like, "Hi, Dad." And he was like, "Hey, I have a quick question for you." And I was like, "Dad, I just met Ed Sheeran." He goes, "Hey, can you babysit on Saturday?" And like some family had called my house phone to check if I could babysit on Saturday. And I was like, "Dad, I just met Ed Sheeran." He goes, "Yeah, but can you babysit on Saturday?" And I was like, "Dad, I don't know. Sure, whatever. I just met Ed. Nothing matters." And I like hung up, which is so like 14-year-old Isabel, like so dramatic. So we like stand in the lobby for a while, and eventually they like let us go into the venue, which honestly I felt like cattle. So we race these girls, you can't run. So the rave, you have to walk up 2 sets of stairs to get to like the Eagles ballroom. So we like speed walk up these stairs, like into the venue, whatever. So I'm like end up right side barricade, like on the barricade, whatever. They like let everyone in at the same time. It's like insane craziness. So we're in there for forever, and it ends up coming out later that they actually let us in too early. And so they oversold the show by like hundreds of tickets. And so they were over capacity by like hundreds of people. And so it was like it's the most insane crowd I've ever experienced in like all my concert days. And so I'm on this barricade, and I after the show, I went home and I had bruises across my ribs. So I am being pushed on this barricade by just people just like going insane. And it's not even on stage yet. Like the openers haven't even gone yet. And so we're being pushed so much, all this stuff, it's getting really dangerous. Girls are being pulled out like one by one, like every 5 minutes, just like girls being like crowd surfed out of the show because people are fainting, like it's so hot, all this stuff. And so eventually they like went over the mics and were like, "Hey, everyone needs to take 4 steps back and sit down." And so they somehow, don't know how this happened, but they get us all to take like, there's probably like 2 feet between the barricade and like people sitting. We're all sitting on the floor. So we're sitting like that for maybe like 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden some girl screams and gets up because she like saw something or something. And so everyone gets up and runs. And so I get up and I'm then pushed onto the barricade again. I'm like in so much pain. My friend who was outside, who unfortunately didn't get to meet Ed, which I'm so sorry, girl, but she ended up catching up with us, so she was with us. And so the 3 of us were like on the barricade, and she like almost had to get lifted out because she was like lightheaded, she was in so much pain, all this stuff. And so show goes on, or like openers go on, whatever. It's like, I don't even remember who they are. So then eventually Ed goes on, amazing show. So painful. I'm like getting pushed onto this barricade, but like Ed Sheeran's in front of me, so like don't even care. So Ed plays a set. It's incredible, like unreal, all this stuff. And so then I like go home. I sleep over at my friend Mary's house, who met me with him. We sleep over at her house the next day. Like, I just remember going to bed and just being like, this is the happiest day of my life. And we wake up the next morning and the website, or the radio station, had uploaded the pictures to their website, and we like got it. And Mary this was like the peak of Facebook. Like Instagram wasn't really a thing yet. And so Mary and I because Mary and I took the picture together. So it's like Ed in the middle and us each on one side. So we each crop each other out and post it as our profile picture, which, okay, I have to go back and look and check what my caption was, because it probably was something so ridiculous. Honestly, I'm gonna read some of the comments as well. So I post this because the show was like on a Friday or something, and yeah, the show was on a Friday and this was Saturday morning. So I post the picture to Facebook and it just like blows up. And let me see if I can find it. Okay. Oh my gosh, like May 11th, 2013. A picture of me and Ed Sheeran, very poorly cropped. I'm wearing a ketchup costume. And the caption is, "A dream come true, period. Nothing can ever stop this." I'm so dramatic, I can't. So it like blows up, everyone's liking it, everyone's freaking out. Let me read some of the comments on here, they're so funny. Because people had kind of known about this. Because on Friday I told everyone at my high school that I was going to do it. And I was like this wee little freshman who like no one knew. Like no one knew who I was. I went to a very small high school, but still like no one knew who I was. And so this goes up, everyone's texting me, everyone's freaking out, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. And then my other friend who I met him with, Mary, she like had Twitter and had all that stuff. And we go on Twitter and like this all starts to come out that I had gone viral on Twitter. I need to find these. Okay, I found them. So we like were going through all these tweets. I was like going, like all these tweets were going viral on the internet about this like ketchup girl and Ed Sheeran, and the radio station was talking about me. That's why everyone, when I walked in, when they picked me to win, everyone was like, oh, the ketchup girl, because on air they were like talking about this ketchup girl, like all this stuff. So everyone knew like who this ketchup girl was. And my friend goes, I still have these screenshotted. My friend goes on Twitter and there's tweets. Here's one. I was at an Ed Sheeran concert and this girl was wearing a ketchup outfit and said, "Help me catch up with Ed," and she won a meet and greet. What the heck? This one in all caps. This girl dressed as a ketchup bottle got picked to meet Ed and she was right behind me. OMG. This one. Last year at Ed, a girl dressed up as a ketchup bottle and got to meet him. What do I dress up as? And then the funniest one, which I actually found this year when I was researching for this episode. I had found this tweet in 2020 from 2013. This girl I know now who went to my high school tweeted, ketchup girl who met Ed Sheeran goes to my school. Oh, hell no. So funny. So this happens, it's blowing up, I like realize I go viral, it's just like funny. My parents are like, I cannot believe we raised this girl, she's crazy, whatever. And so I think I also maybe had a Tumblr at the time, and so there was like some stuff in like the Ed Sheeran fandom on Tumblr and like the ketchup girl, but whatever. So I go to school on Monday. I know this is just like me being dramatic and remembering it, but it felt like out of the movies, like when you walked down the hall and everyone just like looked at you and I don't know, it just like was one of those things where it felt like I was like walking in slow motion, everyone was turning their heads, like, and not in a good way, not like, oh, that girl's so cool, like, oh, that girl's so weird. So that's like my crazy Ed Ketchup story. It's funny, one of the girls that were from my high school that was at the show, her and her friends had like made all these posters and stuff to try to win, and if I didn't win, they would have won, and so they hated my guts, like hated me. And one of the girls was this girl, Daisy, who now is like one of my best friends. And probably every other fangirl story I'll ever tell on this podcast, she was with me. And so it's funny now because we're like best friends. And I actually ended up getting to get her to meet Ed. I met Ed Sheeran another time, which if you want to hear that story, let me know, because that one's pretty funny too. Not as crazy as this one, but pretty crazy. So if you want that story, let me know. But yeah, and then the funniest part of all of this, so that all happens, whatever. Everyone at my high school then, because that was September of my freshman year, so then everyone at my high school just like knew me as the ketchup girl, and that's just like what I was known as for a very long time, which was so embarrassing, but also hilarious to look back on. So fast forward 4 years, I go to college, my freshman year. I'm hanging out with this girl that was, in one of my first classes. We became friends. We're like hanging out with a bunch of girls, and she was like a huge One Direction fan. She loved Ed Sheeran, like loved all the same music as me. So we're like sitting in our freshman year dorm room, like eating like ice cream on the floor, and we're all chatting, like telling stories. And I'm like, oh, like I've got a funny one. And I'm like, yeah, one time I met Ed Sheeran dressed as a ketchup bottle, and she goes, "You were the ketchup girl?" And I said, "What?" She goes, "You were the ketchup girl." And I was like, yeah. And she lives in Texas, and was like, "Isabel, I remember that so vividly," because she was like in the Ed Sheeran fandom. She's like, "I remember being on Tumblr and everyone talking about this ketchup girl. I can't believe I am meeting you right now." Oh, which is so funny. And so, yeah, it's followed me everywhere. I've used that story to get a couple job interviews, which is funny. Just like really shows my dedication and my creativity. I'm kidding. It's just a wild story that catches people's attention. So anyway, that's my Ed Sheeran ketchup girl story and the time I went viral. I have a lot more of those where that came from. So let me know what you want to hear in the next episode. I could tell the story of the next time I met Ed Sheeran. I could tell the story of the time John Bellion gave me his shoes. I could tell the story about the time I met Luke Hemmings at a music festival. I've got a lot of them. So let me know what you want to hear. I also am excited for quarantine to finish soon, hopefully, so I can have some guests on the podcast. I love to talk to artists, musicians, people who enjoy music about why they love it. So if you want to come on the podcast, let me know. Hit me up. But yeah, follow Collective Sound on Instagram. I'm definitely going to put a lot of pictures from the time I met Ed Sheeran on there, so you're gonna want to check it out. Follow me on there, and yeah, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate you listening. I love you, and if I don't know you, I'm probably already in love with you. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks so much. See ya. Bye.